Let's get started discussing the nuts and bolts of Liferay installation. In the DevOps world, we will use Docker, but you're free to use whatever environment you want to use. We're assuming that everyone uses Docker because during the previous versions of this training, we got a lot of feedback that just a manual installation on the operating system or on a virtual machine, as we did, is just not sufficient anymore, and I totally understand that. Now, deploying Liferay for development or deploying Liferay for production doesn't need to be that much different anymore. Typically, we had quite a different setup, make it easier for development, make it better, more performant for production. With Docker, that all blends together and you can actually tweak every single image a little bit so that it is more development related or more production related. So we don't really see a lot of differences in the installation anymore. Now, what is DevOps? I feel uncomfortable giving you a full definition of DevOps, of what this actually means. Involves culture, automation, measurement, and sharing, as my slide says. My cheat sheet here as the 4 core values of DevOps. I would basically say take it as the transition between the hardcore system administration and the hardcore development world where they never had anything to do with each other. And I'm coming from a time when I've had fights with system administrators as a developer, as well as the other way around. So when this now merges more into each other, we can actually provide the other side with the clear, proper information what we need in production. And it is just through the tools that we have available for us. When you provision a Liferay server, we don't really care where and how you provision it. You can just install Liferay on your bare metal operating system. You can install in a virtual machine, or you can install as a container and run as a container. And as I said, today we get a lot of feedback that we want containers, and I totally understand that. I actually like that we use containers in this course now, finally, and this will make it so much easier to get everything running and to document what is needed. If you use the cloud for your installation, be my guest, not my problem. You'll install on any computer in any way, shape, or form that you would like to, and I'll be teaching you the principles that you need to know in order to do this. What we won't really go in deeper is the whole automated system provisioning, because that is more or less a function of your system deployment, of your system administration practices. So I will teach you up until the point where we get everything running in Docker on your local machine with everything we need. When you need more, when you have automated system provisioning, whatever it is, whichever button you need to click to install anything in production in your continuous development environment, if you're in your integration test environments, that is then up to you. But with the initial steps, it will be a piece of cake to just install them in the many different environments. If you're running Liferay, and we're here talking about DXP 7.1, many of these principles also apply to DXP 7.0, then you will need, at a bare minimum, a few containers or a few different instances of something. You can share them all in one container, but it's just not appropriate, I would say. You'll need the Liferay instance, of course, which is running in an application server like Tomcat, Wildfly, WebSphere, and so on. You will need a database, and it's just one of the supported databases that we offer anyways. And you will need an Elasticsearch container. Now, Elasticsearch is, I would say, the least understood one that you need. Of course, Elasticsearch is well understood, but that you need a separate Elasticsearch server is not always known and not always the first thing you think of, because if you just download Liferay and install it and run it, it will have an embedded Elasticsearch server. So technically, you don't need it. In order to get support, you will need a separate Elasticsearch instance. It cannot be the internal one. That's great for demo and development, but it's not supported in production. Why? Because the performance tuning and the whole behavior and memory consumption of Elasticsearch works best when it's running in its own server and not within any other application server like Liferay. So that's our reason to say, well, you want to offload it anyways. You don't want that CPU to be consumed of your portal. You want that CPU consumed in another container somewhere. If that is the same physical CPU, your choice, and we'll just mandate to get support, have them differently. We will talk about continuous integration, development, delivery and deployment, and basically start there with a common Docker container. And then, of course, you can apply variations to this Docker container to be applicable to every single installation or every single environment that you're running. In your material, in your books, or next to the videos, you will find the written material for this course. This is what you'll find within Liferay University or Liferay Passport on the side or interjected with the videos. We'll have the written material there, which you can print and you can see if you need those notes. I'll encourage you to have some notes on the side. And from time to time, we have these review boxes, which you can fill out with your understanding of the previous section. Sometimes we'll go a little bit into the next, but you'll see that, and you will have a record of things that you have noted down yourself. Feel free to note more. Let's start with DevOps, which is encapsulating both a philosophy and best practice and tools. I'm aware that I didn't name it that when I covered this course, but I'd be happy with any definition of DevOps that you write in there. It's basically your own understanding. Automating system provisioning includes the automated creation of virtual servers or configuration of software on servers. Best practices for development integration with operations processes include continuous integration, delivery, and deployment, or CI, CD, CD. This is the abstract part. Next, we'll talk into Docker in a very short overview for Docker. If you already know Docker, then you will know more than I will cover in this chapter. But you will get enough from Docker that we actually can start building our own systems just from this introduction. I'm aware that there are Docker courses available that are way deeper and that provide way more information. But my task is to teach you Liferay, and that's what we'll do just with the help of a little bit of Docker.